Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
A fabulous free kick from Leighton Baines. Dawson, oh, what a finish from Glenn Dawson. It's 2-0. It's scored by Tim Cahill in injury time for Everton. Matheson, the 16-year-old, to Wilbraham, the 40-year-old. Stunning from James Rodriguez. And here into Henderson. And Ian Henderson, right on half-time.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Men in Blue podcast. And before we introduce our famed, esteemed panel that we have to review the 2021-22 season, I've got a little quiz for us all. I'm going to name some songs and I want to see if anyone can guess what they've all got in common. Okay, so you may know some of these songs, okay? We've got 4 Minutes by Madonna, American Boy by Estelle, When I Grow Up by the Pussycat Dolls, Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon, and Just Dance by Lady Gaga. Anyone know what connects all of those songs, and many, many more, of course? They were all released in April 2008, and guess what else happened in April 2008? Wrexham went out the Football League, and they haven't been back since because they bottled the playoffs. Hey, welcome to the season review, everyone, of 2021-22. As we know, big money Welsh Wrexham bottled it against Little Grimsby in the playoffs. But more importantly, welcome to Matt, to Deck, and to Greg. How are we all doing, gentlemen?
Poor Deadpool.
You leave Ryan Reynolds alone. He's been through a lot this season. I like Ryan Reynolds. I feel fair play to him for like doing the whole TikTok stuff and everything else. But yeah, it was quite funny to see.
And that offside moment was superb. I've never seen someone celebrate it all for so long for it to still be ruled out. I mean, the players had pretty much sat down and were, having their oranges before he realised what was going on.
They lost at Wembley to Bromley. I'd forgotten about that. Oh, this is brilliant. Yeah. Oh, and it was offside as well. It was brilliant. So yeah, anyway, besides that, how are we all anyway, gents? We all doing okay since we last recorded? Just to take you behind the door here, podcast listeners, we literally had like a 30-second break in between recording episode 23 and 24. We kept it on record. It was an awkward bit of silence, and then we started again. So literally not a lot has changed. We haven't even had a chance to change our sweaty shirts. Well,
speak for yourself.
Speak for myself. Anyway, our season review for 21-22, as I've mentioned about 50 times now. Let's start with the good old National League, Deck's favourite division ever, especially when Tranmere broke their trophy drought, winning the playoffs in 2018. So those of you that haven't listened to episode 23, you won't get that reference particularly. Those of you who don't follow Tranmere Rovers, you won't get that reference particularly. So, National League, thoughts, Stockport and Wrexham. Oh no, not Wrexham, sorry. Who was it again? Was it Grimsby? Grimsby came up. They won 6-5 at Wrexham. Grimsby Town. With Tranmere legend Manny Disawari and Luke Waterford.
Certainly was.
Right, Zach, I'll let you take over.
Manny Disawari. Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Stockport. I know obviously they're backed quite well financially. They are fan-owned. I think that's important to remember, that they're not kind of money-lined by a well-known celebrity. I think a couple of weeks to go before the end of the season, it looked as though Wrexham could possibly have... Well, they were on the verge of going to go and pip them to it. They actually beat Stockport towards... I'm just trying to figure out... So they beat Stockport 3-0. Yeah, third to last game. And I think that was a big turnaround moment. I don't know whether at that moment Wrexham maybe thought it was all in the bag and kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit with it. But to be fair to Stockport, they then went and ground out a 1-0 win playing Torquay, and then 2-0 against, I think it was Halifax. I'm just going to consult that app that refused to sponsor us. Yeah, 2-0 to Stockport v Halifax. So to be fair to them, they went and did what they needed to do. Madden has had an absolute brilliant season for them. Yeah, you need the goal. He's done a jump up in the box for you, and obviously supporting a League Two side. Quite excited to see them back in the Football League. One, it's a fairly local away game. There's no kind of rivalry really with Stockport. I think we've got a fairly we can relate to their fan base. Obviously they were away from the Football League for a lot longer than we were, but we can definitely relate to a lot of things. Arguably not necessarily a similar sized club, but they've got good dates, they're well supported. Obviously they've got bigger clubs around them, as the we. So I think nice to see a fairly genuine and reputable team back in the Football League. Not the same would have been said obviously with other sides potentially pushing for promotion. Grimsby as well, obviously winning the playoffs. I have to say there's a little bit of me that was a little bit gutted, let down not to see Solihull do it. I think it would have been nice to have seen them obviously come up to the Football League for the first time. I'm not sure how their ground would have stood up to Football League standards. From memory, it's somewhere between, I think it's a Bentley dealership or a Bentley. Yeah, it's by a car plant somewhere, and not too far off the end of Birmingham International's runway. I can remember the planes flying quite low. Solihull Moors, by the way, for any Tranmere fans listening, was the away game where our centre-back had to get on Scott Davis's shoulders to fix the netting in the goal before the game. The groundsman couldn't find a ladder and the two players just had to sort it. So yeah, some great memories there. But all in all, a fairly good National League season.
Wasn't it Solihull as well, or was it Sutton, where we went down for, is it a midweek game? It was a power cut.
I'm pretty sure that was Solihull as well.
And we had to replay the game and lost. Was that Solihull?
I'm sure it was Solihull, yeah.
Oh, that was Solihull as well. Absolute peak non-league, FA Trophy or wherever it was, National League behaviour. I think on Stockport, though, obviously it shouldn't be forgotten, despite the money meant, that I think it is the first time in about 11 years they've come back from the Football League. They've actually been down in the 6th Division as well. There was a lot of anger. I remember they went down, would have been about 2014, I think they lost at Kidderminster and went down to the National League North. They had a few years down there and then won that division. So it's a heck of a redemption arc, really, to drop from, I think we can all remember Stockport being in the Championship, not, well, in our living memory. So drop down the 6th tier and have now bounced back up to the 4th Division. It's where a club like Stockport really ought to be in the Football League. And I know we've tongue-in-cheek mentioned Tranmere legends and Manny Desirari and Luke Waterfall, but I think two genuine Tranmere legends should be commended for different reasons on the promotion. Dave Challoner particularly, for more intents and purposes, a really decent bloke. I chat with Clint Hill sometimes, as I know Deck knows Clint as well, who's an assistant there. What a job Dave Challoner's done to come in from Hartlepool, drop down again to the National League, take them from I think 8th when he took over to win the league, and ultimately look, despite a few hairy results away at Wrexham and so on, and at home to I think Boreham Wood, so have been pretty comfortable winning the league really, with obviously a very good squad. But I think a special shout out should also go to Conor Jennings. He's come back from having a cancer battle not long ago. He's come back, obviously, legend in Tranmere's eyes, with double promotion, winning goal against Newport, 119th minute, all that at Wembley. For him to come back and be part of the team that's gone into the Football League again now, and hopefully, if he's staying there, we'll be able to get a game at Prenton Park and get a proper send-off. Because it did feel like he didn't get a proper send-off when he went to Stockport when he left us a few years ago. And I do think those two, from a Rovers perspective, but obviously there are lots of other players as well, as the captain who's gone to Oldham now. There's been so many players that have been a massive part of a quite remarkable rise back up to the Football League for Stockport County. And I think yes, they've been well backed, but we shouldn't look beyond the fact of the romance of they've been through a hell of a lot as a fan group. They were nearly out of business, and to come back to where they are is really, really special to see.
Yeah, agreed. It's nice to see, as you've just alluded to there, Jimmy, that a genuine side. Yeah, there's been a little bit of money behind them and so on, but they've not just gone and fluttered it at the first player that would kind of come and take a big wage. They've kind of looked at that level, figured out who's tried, tested, proven, done a little bit of research at a team in terms of the players that they brought in, and I've got a squad together there that I, hand on heart, looking ahead to next season, really think that they could contend for playoffs in League Two. I really do think that they will be, without needing to sign anyone, if they could just keep that squad, or certainly the core of that squad, just from the goal scoring threat alone, I think they could be a real force to be reckoned with next season, which again would be fantastic to see once it doesn't push us out of the playoffs.
I mean, they were doing well to get some of the signings. Stockport, I think they managed to get Andy Cannon on loan from Hull City, who used to play for Rochdale, and a lot of Rochdale fans were like, "My word, like how's he dropping from Championship Hull to Conference?"
And I think as
So
well,
must have been offering him something. I
Grimsby,
think
they finished in, I think, 6th. What a remarkable... I know you were saying you wanted Solihull to go up deck, but look at Grimsby's record in the playoffs, and I don't just mean the Wrexham game. I mean, last-minute equaliser in normal time at Notts County, winning it with a minute to go in extra time to win 2-1. A good Notts County side who've since lost their manager and one of their forwards, which we'll get on to. So we've then gone to Wrexham, obviously the bedlam that happened there, and then won it late on in extra time against Solihull at the London Stadium. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they led in the 3 away games, well, 1 neutral game. Didn't play a single home match. I think they led for a grand total of 8 minutes in the entire playoff campaign, and have gone up. I mean, that is bizarre. To come from 6th as well, which is hard to do, because usually you come 2nd or 3rd nationally, you get an extra week off, less games, home advantage, boom, you're normally in the final, as we found out. But
there's 2 sides to that coin. There are the shithousery awards of playoffs, in terms of if you were kind of a fan of the opposition, and that kind of how on earth did they manage that, but also, massively commendable, as you say, to, whatever that stat is, around the 8-9 minutes of leading in those 3 games. I mean, that takes some doing, doesn't it? That is epitomising getting the goal at the right time. That's and what a thing to be involved in as well. As you say, to be certainly the number of games as well whereby they were behind as well. And I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier on with Port Vale and that in League Two, that momentum that's behind them, that never say never attitude, and goals coming from all over the pitch as well. Centre backs going up, scoring from throw-ins, corners, etc.
I was quite happy that Grimsby went up. I think I think I'm the opposite to Deck. If Solihull went up and they beat Dale, I'd have been a bit, not embarrassed, but a bit, don't know, they're not a traditional sort of Grimsby, a traditional I can take a Grimsby defeat, if that makes any sense. But I can see where Deck's coming from. It is a new team. It is a bit refreshing. Well, it would have been for us anyway. It would have been a new team for us, but I don't think I'd be more upset getting beat off Solihull than Grimsby. I could take a Grimsby defeat, but that's the way I
to the other end of the National League table. What a lovely sight it is to see Dover Athletic be relegated. What a horrible club.
I was going to give them a special shout out. I mean, I'm a really genuine fan of Dover. You've had, what was it, a -12 or probably even more point deduction even.
They finished the season with 1 point.
1 point. They've managed to actually get 13 points this season anyway, so they'd have gone down regardless. They've had a threadbare squad. I do hope genuinely they can rebuild and be okay in the Conference South next season. But obviously you know far more about going down to Dover and the issues that were there revolving Dover. Obviously, at one point they were in the National League playoffs. We're thinking, how are they going to meet the ground grading if they go up? Because it's just like a field.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of, obviously, for the fans, relegation's never nice, and that's not something against, the fans or the players. But as a club, in terms of how they're run, from things that I've heard, their owner is not the nicest of gentlemen. Very kind of do as I say and not as I do. So, yeah, karma may have caught him up a little bit, but as I say, hopefully, and as you've just said there, Jimmy, hopefully for the fans and obviously the players and the people who kind of rely on the club for their income, then hopefully that is a quick bounce back. Maybe a wake-up call to potentially change your owner, really.
Is he a bit of a Conference South version of that? Is it Heckmanthwaite at Fylde or something? One of them kind of types? Yeah. I don't know that's his proper name, but I think for context as well with Dover, I think it should never be forgotten. Was it Dover when Rovers went down to Dover? We know Rochdale had cancellation at Colchester earlier this season, which was bad enough. Dak, I think you'll know the story better than I do, because I think, were you on the way to Dover at the time? Or
Yeah. So there was a Tranmere fan who's also a postie around the Birkenhead area, and he was I could be wrong in saying, but I'm pretty sure it was for cancer research. I could be wrong, but either way around, he was or Mind. It was one of the two, raising money for obviously Z charity, and he set off on a challenge to walk from the Wirral to Dover. The idea being that he would arrive there, say 1 or 2 days before the game, and make kick-off.
What, 400 miles roughly?
Sorry, for those who don't know their UK or English geography, that's a long, long way.
It's a very long way with lots of motorways.
For our listeners in America or the Middle East or Belgium that might not know, because we have had like metrics from there apparently. Anyway, carry on.
Dodgy use of a VPN, I'd say. No, so Postman sets off from the Wirral, say 10 days or whatever it was before kick-off. Actually got down to Dover's ground 3 hours before the game was due to kick off. Only to be told at about 1:45 that the game was called off due to a waterlogged pitch, and the officials said that the game was never going to be played anyway, that it was basically Dover that were pushing for the game to either be called off later on or whatever, for whatever reason, and obviously the poor fella had walked all the way down from the Wirral to see it called off, but Rovers, being the club that they are, allowed them to travel back up on the players' coach, and he was treated quite well. But yeah, there's a few incidents with Dover when we were non-league that stick in the memory for the wrong reasons.
So we've well and truly safeguarded against that happening again by relegating Dover to a division where there's not that much travelling distance, because I don't think you go north of Oxford in the Conference South next season. I could be wrong, but I've seen the National League North map for next season, and some of those clubs are not in the north, funnily enough. I think because, yeah, there's no way that, like, Brackley is up north. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Anything south of the M6 toll, you play in the Southern Division.
Essentially, it's like M4 corridor upwards. It's like, yeah, there you go, yeah, sound. It's there, yeah.
Odd query on the Conference North and South. If for some odd reason that a lot of northern teams just happen to get promoted into the conference, what would essentially happen if there was like 25 southern teams and like 10
basically
15
work out the most
teams?
northern of those southern teams? For example, we've had it with Oxford City, we've had it with, I think, Kings Lynn. In the past, we've had it with, I can't think, there's another one that was like really random, where they've had to move them into the Conference North for a season or two. They just get transferred over, stay within the 6th tier, but transferred over to the Conference North to make up the numbers equal on both sides. This happens a lot in non-league.
Okay.
If you go further down the pyramid, teams get moved across divisions, same level, but different regional division. As like the nearest extreme to the next regional area, if that makes sense. But it causes all kinds of chaos for certain clubs. If you're like a Midlands club or a lower Midlands club, more Southern Midlands club, you've gone from having lesser travel distance to all of a sudden you've got to go up to Blythe Spartans on a Tuesday night, which, as we know, is a long way to go for anyone, even if you live in Blythe.
Good to know. Good to know.
You learn something new every day, mate. You learn something new every day.
You really do. You really do.
Moving on to League 2, boys.
So moving up to the greatest division on earth, the greatest league on earth, God's own division that is League 2. Well, Dak, Greg, Keith Hill relegated, Oldham relegated. Discuss.
I'll jump to Oldham because it's our nearest rival. I think that there's been quite a lot of off-field issues with Oldham over the past 3 or 4 years, from the Scalzi debacles or knowing what's true and what isn't true, what's in the papers, what isn't in the papers, and all that kind of stuff, and the rumours that you hear from other Oldham fans or from Bury fans even that we've heard down the rumour mill and things like that. It's just been a bit of a strange 3 or 4 years for them. But I think sometimes it is on the cards when you have a bit of a wobble for one season, it can continue to the next. I didn't think they would get relegated. I didn't particularly want them to go down for a few reasons. I know they are one of our rivals, but it's another team. I think if you don't have a derby in a division, sometimes you go, I'd rather have the derby, like a local team, have that, game to look forward to and things like that.
Great historic rivalries from Rochdale and Salford, going back generations.
Salford's 12 fans.
Well,
in rugby,
exactly. But yeah, I didn't particularly. I don't. Yeah, probably. I don't particularly like them, but I didn't want them to go down because I'd rather play them and then they fill the away end with 3,000 fans and we get that money. It's like when Bury went down, yeah, I don't particularly like them, but I'd rather play Bury than Stevenage. I mean, it might be different for, some Dale fans might think, oh no, we wanted them to go down, but it just adds a bit more to a season when you're playing your derby rivals. I think that could probably agree with that. Definitely in League Two, when you've got all kinds of random teams knocking around like Carlisle and whoever. You want your rivals in there. But yeah, Oldham, they've had a wobble for quite a few seasons. I thought getting my lad back, what's he called, Sheridan, I thought he were, what was that, his 12th reign as Oldham manager. I thought that might have saved them, but it didn't particularly.
Honestly, not my phrase. That generally was an Oldham thing. Resurrection.
No, I've heard that one. I've heard that one. I've seen it on Twitter. So yeah, that was Oldham, but they were so difficult to play against. I think we played them at Boundary Park a few months ago, and they weren't particularly playing good football. They were just sort of like gritty, sort of not fouling, but they weren't quite playing football. If you will.
They were shit.
So they're just difficult. Yeah, there you go. Matt said
it. We don't get technical on this, Greg. They were shit.
They were shit. I've been too kind, but yeah, they were shit basically. But I'll let Deck go with Scunthorpe and Hilly because I've still got a soft spot for our Hilly, but I'll let Declan rip into him.
He's still crying.
He's waiting for that poster to run out, isn't he? Come December, he'll be able to put someone else up on his wall. But now, do you know what? I think there's obviously that part of kind of bitterness and hatred's probably a little bit strong for Hill, obviously with what happened at Rovers. But I think, is it that it highlights that he's maybe finished as a Football League manager in terms of what's happened this year? Probably. I think managers kind of get to that age whereby they'll either hit a little bit of form and maybe get another one or two clubs and then finish up, or what's happened this season obviously with Hill. I think he's obviously fallen through quite a few similar sides in quite a short succession, which tends to say a manager's coming towards the end of their career, certainly in the kind of top flights. At the same time, if you look at the squad that he inherited at Scunthorpe, he had zero budget, managed to bring in a few players around January, made very little difference, to be quite honest. Brought Liam Feeney in from us as club captain. Feeney was good for a step over, but that was about it really. And I think that Scunthorpe's relegation was about as inevitable as tomorrow being Wednesday. And for the listeners who are probably listening to this when it's uploaded later on in the week, it is Tuesday. So yeah, no real surprise there. And likewise, I know obviously you've just said about Oldham. In the moment, great. Rivals gone down, we've got one up on them and so on. But as you say, that's a guaranteed 2,000 tickets sold, isn't it? In the away end, it's that little bit of it's not just your generic Tuesday night away game. There's something a little bit more on it. A tasty fixture. Granted, some of the fixtures between us and them have got a little bit, I'd say, too far. In recent seasons. I know the police and cost at Prenton Park, obviously after their pitch invasion the game before, they played us obviously after they'd been relegated. The police and cost was sky high. I'd say we probably broke even really in terms of tickets sold and whatnot. But over the years, some of our better memories, take your playoffs and stuff and your promotions out. Some of the results against your Oldhams, your Berries, etc. Rochdale not so much, and I don't really know why, because geographically we're it's the same kind of ballpark area, same kind of sized clubs. I think maybe because Rochdale, probably more relatable to ourselves, a fairly genuinely run club. I think with Bury, I know obviously this isn't summarising last season, but Bury, obviously we could see they were breaking every rule in the book, and I think that really frustrated people because they were so good when they were in our league and then they'd go up and come back down and so on. Not so much with Oldham, but I think maybe it could have been fan base or whatever it is, but obviously there's a bit of a rivalry opened up there with Oldham as well. So I think on the whole, yeah, if you could have offered Barrow or Stevenage maybe to have dropped, I probably would have taken that. In retrospect,
I'm a little bit gutted about both Scunthorpe and Oldham for different reasons. I mean, well, for the same reason in that they're both proper Football League clubs. great histories in the divisions, and you know, you look at the names of the clubs, what they mean to their communities, what they mean in the Football League. They normally wouldn't be dropping down to the non-league. It's been off the field issues. It's been poor recruitment, poor ownership that's put paid to 2 more Football League clubs. But this isn't the first time it's happened. You look at the National League; it's become a graveyard of Football League clubs that have been run like a shit show. But for me, I thought Scunthorpe and Oldham, did offer something to the league. They were something a bit interesting, and that's why I'm a little bit gutted to see them both go for this. Well, like I say, for similar reasons. Because when you look at like Crawley and Stevenage, they offer nothing to the league. Where is Crawley? What's a Crawley? And Stevenage is like some satellite town outside of Luton with Steve Evans in charge. They offer. Can we just relegate them now? Because they offer nothing to League Two. I'm sorry, Crawley. I know I'm not sorry, Crawley and Stevenage fans, because Crawley have got no fans, and Stevenage fans live too far away. They never leave Stevenage anyway. They're not going to come and find me. They offer nothing.
There he is, the Tranmere Raider.
They've got a lovely range shop by their ground, I must admit.
Oh, well, you go. Sorted.
Oh, there you go.
Range.
That's all you need.
Yeah. And a hand car wash. They let us park there for free last time we went down.
They're not a reason alone. Keep them up. Better promote them higher.
Oh, great. You can do your crafts. Brilliant. That's great. Amazing. But, like, it frustrates me how League Two is getting littered with these absolute nondescript football clubs. Salford.
Right.
But, you know...
On the Salford thing.
Whereas the propositional names now...
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate to a certain extent, because...
This from the boy who lives near Salford's ground.
No, I couldn't give a toss about Salford either way. But my point of view is, Salford are one of those clubs that we all say no one supports them, and it's true. They haven't got a big fan base either way. But they're up in conversation quite a lot. So they're not, of course they're not a big club, of course they're not either way, but are they worth talking about just because of how they're run, or who they're run by, I should say? But it is something that if they weren't a big club, we wouldn't care about them as much. But they're always coming up. Every time we do a League Two roundup or in any of these podcasts, you can guarantee Salford are brought up in some capacity, and not just because I've been to a game. So is it...
Okay, so we're here by an agreement. We're not to discuss Salford anymore now because Matt said that.
I don't know. When I say I'm playing Davos, because what I'm doing.
23 teams in League One, League Two. Sorry.
That's the point I'm making. Is that we're very quick to dismiss them, but we're also very quick to talk about them. So
talk about who?
Nice one. But this is my point. This is kind of the odd situation. Is it just because of the fact that it's the class of '92 in charge? Because of they've got ambitions to take them to the championship and beyond, which they won't do. Let's be honest. I think, unfortunately, I like the sort of the.
With United legends.
It's what I mean. I like the idea of Neville saying we can take the club to the championship, and going, no, you fucking not, Gary. Jesus Christ, mate. Not with 1,000 a week turning up. It's like.
When you change your mind, when you change your underwear.
Well, exactly. So, I don't know. They're a strange sort of entity because they're not a big club by any stretch, because they're surrounded by, your Rochdales and obviously the big clubs in City United. But you can't help but talk about them, which makes it a really odd thing to bring up.
Yeah, I think it's that.
My way of looking at it.
That's their USP, isn't it? The unique selling point of the club, that they know that they're going to be word of mouth from people purely because, if you look at your, what is it, Soccer 6 or whatever he's involved, what is it, the fancy football and all, Super 6 and all that.
Super 6,
it's constant exposure, isn't it? And I think that is, as Jimmy said, the kind of Forest Green effect. Obviously their owner is kind of controversial for a lot of what he's said in recent years, although I have to say, and I know a lot of people will be shocked here, I'm actually warming to their owner. Some of the things that he's kind of said in recent months really, really important, and I think he's kind of, as a lot of people do as they're up and coming, or they try and make a bit of a name for themselves in the wrong way, but once they've got that platform, if they're using it in the right way, then I respect that. You've got to do something different sometimes to be seen in and amongst the crowd, and I think Salford probably do that in terms of they buy anyone and everyone in sight. If someone's had a sniff of goal, or they've even so much as understood what a football is or how to put a bib on, Salford offer you, $2,500 a week to come and play for them, but you'll be turfed out on loan after a month. And that's just the way they are. I think Salford epitomise modern football, quick managerial turnarounds, lots and lots of signings, not really a lot of stability within the squad. And I think a lot of people have kind of done full circle on them. There was a documentary, wasn't there? I think which was called The Class of '92.
BBC made one, and Sky have made them as well. So they know what they're doing. They get their name out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the original one, I think, which was I think BBC was the original.
I think so.
When that was on, it was really interesting. Obviously, that was before we'd gone non-league, and obviously that was going down a few more divisions from the conference. But it was really interesting to kind of see football at that level and see how much it meant to people. And at the time, I thought, what a fantastic thing that they've done, that they've kind of got this Sunday league side that they basically were. And they've given something back to the local community, the people who've basically made them who they are. And I thought, what a fantastic thing, like a real noble thing to do. But then it was time to hand that over, and I think it's now kind of a bit of a vain.
So in your eyes, they should have got them maybe to where they are now, or even the National League, and then found, I don't know, a fan-owned consortium, something along those lines, and said, right guys, we've got you settled, just your staple, the stadium's been built, etc. If you want to take it further, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I see your point. I see your point. The idea of it being now, it's a case of they're just going to keep throwing money at things until eventually something sticks.
It's a rich boy toy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just I can throw that. That's the interest that I've made this week, and I'll go and sign 5 players in the January window, and I think it kind of, as you were saying, I think National League is probably their natural level. If you look at, it's not just attendances, but size of club, etc., number of clubs within the area. And as you've just said, if they'd have got them back to that kind of level, National League North / National League, and they'd gone, we've given you something back here now, something where the community can use, it'll give as much as it takes from the community. I think that would have been the right time for them to kind of step away. But on Salford as well, I think towards the back end of the season, or last season just gone, they were starting to edge ever closer to the playoffs, and I could just see that they would have been your kind of Port Vale, a thorn in the side of, if they'd have got in there, I have a feeling that they probably would have done it. They only would have come back down from League One, there's no doubt about that, but there was quite a bit of a fear there for me that they may have crept in.
On Forest Green then, were they League 2 champions? I would say pretty much, secured on the last day. Owner Dale Vince, I have to say yes. Likewise, after the ding-dong battles we've had with him down the years at Tranmere, I am warming to him. He was even gracious when they went to our place and spanked us. Players like Matt Stevens, Jamil Matt, fantastic up front. The lad who's just gone to Bristol Rovers, Bristol City, the fullback, whose name escapes me.
Wilson.
I've forgotten his name now. But yeah, I mean, what a season for them. Unfortunately, somewhat soured by the news that the manager, rightly or wrongly, ran down his contract and has gone to Watford. Rob Edwards, I think the manager is there. Not the first Rob Edwards in management. What a job. What a job he's done. And what an effort to get Forest Green from where they've been to into the 3rd division for next season.
I think him... Oh,
go on, Dex. Right, go on.
Sorry, all I was going to say, in terms of their manager going, I think obviously that shows it's a good advert for the lower league teams and clubs that, not only can they produce, I'm saying this, he's not gone there and done a job yet at Watford, but not only can lower teams produce decent players that then go on and have, good careers, top-end championship, low-end prem, but also that, there are good managers out there, good young managers who, rather than looking abroad or doing what we've said earlier on, whereby you just kind of sign a manager because you know that they're proven, you don't get your Roy Hodgson or your whatever, or if you're higher up, your bigger teams, you go and sign a Jose Mourinho, for instance, so it doesn't always work. And I think going and trying something different, Watford could fall flat on the face, and they could get to January or even before and realise, we've made a hell of a mistake here, but it probably wouldn't be too late for them to go and get somebody proven and, kind of push back up and go and get playoffs. I think as well that kind of highlights, I know obviously it's going from a League One club to top end championship, arguably a Premiership side, but I think that also highlights how small of a club Forest Green are. I'd like to think if that was somebody, for instance, who got Wigan promoted, say, up until League One, or, you know, a Charlton or whatever,
Bradford,
would they have left? Or a Bradford, yeah, would they have left? You know, obviously Mark Hughes there, if he, you know, had a fantastic season next season with Bradford, which the bookies seem to think he will, he gets them back up to League One. Does he run his contract down and go and sign for, you know, Norwich or Leicester or whatever? No, he probably wouldn't. So does, you know, that highlights again the kind of not falseness of Forest Green, because they've done everything in a legitimate way, but again, it's that kind of thing of money being thrown at. But you know, a very, very good side, worthy winners this season.
Is that something for him though, where the offer to go to Watford is too good to turn down? Or, albeit he hasn't left in what you would call the best way, in a bit of a dick move, and, like you say, run the contract down. But is it too much? Is that something that's too good to miss, if that makes sense?
I'd say too good to turn down, but the way he went about it was wrong. I listened to an interview with Dale Vince not long after Edwards left, and basically it was all rumoured in the media, and the Forest Green owners knew nothing about it until it was done, and they got in touch with Edwards, and Edwards was like, oh yeah, I meant to tell you, but, you know, I've signed a deal with Watford now. Say what you will about the owner, you know, what he's done at Forest Green in terms of certain attitudes and antagonistic views and whatnot, but it's respectful to any employer, even if your contract's due to end, if you've got another deal on the table with a Forest Green or whatever, or, you know, it's respectful to your current employer and say, look, I've had an approach from these, within the terms of a contract, I am allowed to speak to them. I think I'm going to take it, and give them prior warning before it's leaked through the media to them, which I think is poor form, and it unfortunately it sets a lot of pressure on Edwards, which we'll go on to, I'm sure, in our next season pod. But he's got to hit the ground running as Watford manager, largely unproven, one season in management, senior management, won the league with Forest Green, but the way in which he left Forest Green has sort of tarnished his reputation, sort of tainted his career, in that if he doesn't do well at Watford, who's going to want a manager that is willing to just sack you off at the end of the year, at the end of his contract, without any prior warning? At least be respectful enough to give your current employers a bit of a heads up as to what's happening going forward.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's a tough situation, because you get the feeling that if, again, you guys know more about this than I will, but if he had gone to the owner and said, look, Watford are coming to me, coming for him even, that they probably would have given him the blessing to go, well, you know what, yeah, fair enough, we can't give you what they're going to offer you. We can fight and try and get you to stay, but the odds are we probably know what's going to happen in the situation, and everyone shakes hands and that's it. Yeah, it just felt a little bit, I don't know, it just felt just a bit harsh. It's very much a modern football thing, unfortunately. That's the kind of sad situation where everything's done secretly, everything's done, you know, through agents and that kind of stuff, but there you go, I suppose. It's the kind of business.
I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes you do see it with players run down the clock of the contracts, then bang straight up, and there's no warning to the club that they're off and things like that. But I don't know where you draw the line in terms of that's okay for players and not managers and things like that. I don't know really, but it's definitely happened at Rochdale.
I think it's different. But it's different, isn't it? If let's say Forest Green have finished, I don't know, if it had been obvious since January that him and the owner weren't getting on, but Forest Green had still battled through and won it, then you could kind of see why he'd do it. But it's come so far out of the blue. It's felt a little, a bit of a dick move, put it that way. But hey ho, let's see what happens. 6 months' time. Let's face it, you're going to manage Watford. You could be gone by September. And who comes in? Don't know. Zola again? Knowing them? I have no idea. Hodgson
he'll be back at Forest Green come January.
Yeah, he probably is. Wouldn't surprise me.
Speaking of dickhead managers, Joey Barton got Bristol Rovers up. We spoke about the 7-0 victory. We've already mentioned on the previous pod, of course, their remarkable rise, the fact they actually didn't get into the promotion places until the very last minute, done somewhat of a League 2 Grimsby, if you will. Fun fact, though, which I've just remembered, Scunthorpe obviously got relegated. They lost their main centre-forward, Ryan Loft, in January, which didn't help. Who did they sell them to?
Was it Bristol Rovers?
It was Bristol Rovers. Now, who do you think stands to make extra money from add-ons?
Keith Hill.
If Bristol Rovers get promoted.
Yeah. Really? Keith Hill?
Anyway, so swamp up. Keith Hill, yeah, he lines his own pocket. Anyway, so yeah. Well, that's a bit Steve Evans of him, but hey ho, allegedly. And yeah, special shout as well to Port Vale going up. Darryl Clark obviously lost his mum during the season. Very emotive game against Mansfield at Wembley, battered them 3-0. Anyone got anything else to say on the League 2 season before we scooch on up the divisions?
Can't really think of anything, no.
No, fantastic. Well, I mean, no, absolutely. Well, League 1, Wigan bouncing back after a couple of years. What a job Liam Richards has done from being Paul Cook's assistant, taking a team of ragtag of individuals to just surviving in League 1. To, for my mind, worthy champions. Will Keane, amongst others, a couple of lads from Portsmouth they got at the back. Obviously, our mate Max Power. Well, Matt went to school with
Big
him.
Max.
That's about it.
Big Max.
The Birkenhead Messi, as he is, or Beddington Messi, I should say. Yeah, I mean, Wigan, Plymouth, and obviously our good friends at Waterball Lake Sunderland have gone up and won the trophy at the playoff final. So, any thoughts on the promoted sides coming up, or anything else, any other stories from League 1 that's caught our eyes this season?
Delighted to see Sunderland come up. Absolutely delighted to see that. I mean, the crowd they took for that playoff final was mental. And again, to beat Sheffield in the semis, well, in the semi-finals. Wasn't a great game of football, the semis. I think I watched the second leg at Hillsborough, and it was very cagey, with a good sort of finish towards the end. But yeah, delighted. They're kind of not back where they should be, but I always have them again as a big club in that area. And obviously we know the Waterball Lake guys, and it was great to see that celebration. And the crowd that day was mental at Wembley. So yeah, delighted to see them come up.
And I think as well, Rotherham, I think I said Plymouth before, I meant Rotherham. Rotherham, once again, doing their usual yo-yoing between the Championship and League 1. Paul Warne, fantastic job he's done there. Do we think somebody might pick him up and finally break him with his Rotherham perpetual hell of fluctuating between divisions? Because I think he's done about as good a job at Rotherham as you're going to do. It's the most you'd expect is going down from Championship, going up to League 1. We're already favourites to go back down from the Championship once again. So they've got some cracking players there over Rotherham, of course, but any thoughts on him or anything there, or just?
I've got one. one of the statistics that I managed to see in League 1 for Rotherham was obviously it's going to be an ex-Dale player. Ollie Rathbone got the second highest tackles won in League 1 for any player, I think. So that was something that I just sort of noticed that it's not just the goals sometimes, but it can be the tackles, and getting the ball off the opposition is also quite important. And we know goals are, we know that, and clean sheets. But getting the ball off the opposition, you can't beat it. As a stat as well. I just saw it and I thought, blimey, we miss that type of player, and a lot of teams do like those players that the old fashioned get stuck in there and getting the ball and tackling and things like that. Just you don't really see a lot of them these days. I mean, like the Roy Keanes have gone out there of these world of the that generation and things like that. But just the stat that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Rotherham as well in terms of their manager, he's obviously a fairly proven record now of getting out of that division on not a relatively low budget, but not an unlimited go and buy the league kind of thing. If you're potentially Bolton, who may next season be looking to push on and try and get themselves back up as an established Championship side, your Portsmouths, Ipswiches, etc., those big sides in League 1, is that a manager that you kind of look and go, right, do you know what, he's not a big name as such, but he can do it in this division, and he's done it at slightly smaller clubs than us. Why not us? Again, going back to that thing of, rather than going with someone who a name or a reputation, I think he does probably deserve a shot. I've got not necessarily a soft spot for Rotherham, but I think they're a fairly genuine side as well. Certainly at that level. Championship, I think, is probably slightly beyond them. I think they're, hand on heart, probably a similar club to ourselves. If we were to get up to League 1 and kind of re-establish, I think that's where Our owners are kind of looking at us, or for us, to potentially be that kind of, not a yo-yo side, but a okay championship side at best, but that's probably for another pod. As you've said, that Sunderland are absolutely delighted for them. Obviously not the first win now at Wembley. They got obviously the Papa John Trophy win against us last season. So kind of took away from that kind of, we've been to Wembley, God only knows how many times, and not done it, to actually go down and get the result that they so desperately deserved and warranted, really. But yeah, just looking at relegation as well, Gillingham obviously slipped. Doncaster, Wimbledon, Jimmy's favourite side. Wimbledon back in League 2. And Crewe basically doing the polar opposite of my head's on here, Rotherham, and doing their bouncing between League 2 and League 1. So no doubt they'll probably be up the top end of League 2 come the end of next season somehow. Yeah, I think that's it for League 1, I think.
Yeah, I will just add, this bleeds into next season, but I do fear for Crewe and Doncaster. Admittedly, I think recruitment-wise, financially, I think they may well struggle, and you might face a double dip there into the non-league, but that remains to be seen. Moving up into the Championship then, I think the story really is the second greatest Alexander to come from Eastern Europe. Anyone work out what the first is? Bit of a hint. Alexander Mitrovic, what a guy. He is going to destroy the Premier League if he gets the right service.
He could.
I think he's
genuinely
brilliant.
He could do as well. I think
genuinely. 43 goals in the Championship.
We can all sit here and talk about Erling Haaland and what's his name, Darwin Nunez, is it? It's just over Liverpool. It's all about Mitrovic next season. Calling it. If I was Everton, seriously, I would be apt. If we lose, I don't know, something like Calvert-Lewin over Charleston, 100% be looking to sign him. Was it how many goals? He got 40 something, was it?
I think it was 43 and 46. I could be wrong on that one, but that's a ridiculous stat regardless.
What I will say as well, I like Marco Silva. He wasn't the best at Everton when he came in, but he has got that side playing some excellent football, and they demolished that league. 43 goals is insane for a striker. Slightly helped by the fact I work with a Fulham fan, and she just said it's been unbelievable. It's just been, they couldn't imagine it had it to be this good. But he's a good manager. Good manager, just at the wrong time came to a club like Everton. And I like him. I like the fact what the side he's built. It's sad to see they're already losing Carvalho isn't it, to Liverpool. Is it Carvalho? Yeah.
Yeah, Fabio Carvalho is going to Liverpool.
Which is a bit of a shame.
Cracking young winger. And
I agree.
Really well there.
100%. But one of the things where you want to see that side come up and stay together and see what they do, play with a bit more freedom in the Premier League, and see if it would get into something like where Brentford have gone, for example, where they've got some really good results this season. But yeah, delighted with Fulham, and especially Marco Silva.
Well, I do hope they do play with freedom, because the day was a Monday night game, I think, where they won the league title. They beat, can we just point out, they beat what was a fantastic effort from Luton with the shoestring budget to make the playoffs under Nathan Jones, who's gone back and had redemption going back. Had been to Stoke and been awful and gone back to Luton. But regardless, back to Fulham, they hammered Luton 7-0 that night. There were scenes of Victoria Sponges everywhere in the crowd. It was unreal.
But they scored 106 goals. 106 goals in the Championship.
They would, yeah, and you could see how much supporters really appreciated that team. It was unbelievable effort. And I must just say, what worthy champions beyond belief. Weren't my tip at the start of the season. I thought Bournemouth would win under Scott Parker, which wasn't the worst shout, but when you look at what Silva's done, again, I think if you're bringing it to an Everton point, yes, he came in at the wrong time for Everton too soon into his career. You can argue, yes, of course, it's just the Championship, and of course he's going to win it with the players at his disposal, Harry Wilson, Fabio Carvalho, Mitro, of course, some of the guys at the back, who I do apologise, names escape me, I'm just thinking off my head at the moment. But they've been... The fact they've won 7-0 away twice in the league, I think at Blackburn and again at Reading, is utterly mental. And you can only say they are, well, if they recruit right and don't spend £100 million on new players again like they do every time they come up, they really could be one to look out for. I don't know how far they can go next season, but I think they could finish better than how Brentford have done this season if they play it right. I think they've got the stability now, the money's there, the squad there, to really push even potentially weirdly the top half if they get it right, because they are so good when they're on it. but it just depends how well they adapt to the new environment in the Premier League again.
Yeah, I think as well, I'm just having a little look at some of their stats. Obviously 90 points over the season. There's only 2 points difference between their home and their away record as well, which for me is a really good sign. Obviously, you always say win your home games and pick points up on the road and grab wins where you can. But for such a similar record, they've kind of gone and dominated wherever they've put. Obviously, there's some very poor sides in the Championship in comparison, but as there is in every division, and I think you're absolutely right. I think they could definitely be. When we say contenders, obviously we're not talking top 4 or whatever for the Prem, but they shouldn't be going up fearing relegation. They should be going back up almost as if we're back where we belong. And let's settle ourselves down and let's start pushing on. So yeah, I'm quite happy to see Fulham back. Obviously Bournemouth back up there as well. Obviously securing second place, and obviously Notts Forest. I think we're all quite happy to see them back up in the Prem. A fairly genuine, honest side. Fans that have obviously, well, for some of the younger fans, they've never seen that kind of top flight football, but obviously for some of the more kind of middle-aged and elder fans to see them back up in that top flight really must be something. And they've not necessarily been through the mill of it, but they've had a lot of kind of mediocre seasons, haven't they?
They've languished, put it that way, in the Championship for 20 odd years. Is it? Was that what it is? 90,
yeah.
I thought it was, for some reason in my head it was a lot shorter, but when I looked it was 90,000 they got relegated to. I didn't realise it was that long. But I'm with you.
At the start of this season as well, it looked like it could have been another one of those seasons until obviously the change in manager. What a job he's done, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. That's for where they've gone. Steve Cooper's done a hell of a job, and they were worthy winners in that final. Huddersfield, don't get me wrong, are a good side. But again, look at the following that Forest took on that day. It was insane. Again, they filled out that end at Wembley. And the one of those clubs I've liked watching in recent years, they've had some cup upsets. Remember them beating Arsenal a couple of times. I think they beat Arsenal in the cup. And again, it's going to be tough for them next season. I think they're going to come up, and whereas Fulham have got a really good, broad, sort of attacking football type, I think they might struggle, but they'll enjoy it. They'll absolutely enjoy it. The sad story for keeping in that sort of area is Derby, and that's just a real sad end to it. And the fact that without that points deduction, I think they would have stayed up in my head pretty comfortably. I think it would have been as well. That's just a sad story, and there's been more coming out today. The EFL are getting more involved in the sale of it. It's what I've been reading past couple of days. It's just a sad situation for a club that, when we were all kids, they were a Premier League mainstay, and you had what's his name, Jim. Oh, the manager, the bald eagle, whose name completely escapes me, with the likes of Paulo Wanchop, etc. They were one of those teams that I just always associate with being a kid in the Premier League. And fair play to Wayne Rooney, what a job he did under those circumstances, and they got some amazing results, and we're sad to see them go down.
Jim Smith.
That's
it
was. Bald Eagle.
It's amazing what a little doodle tab can do on the side, isn't it?
But yeah, that's just a sad story, and it's seemingly going on for longer. And I hope at some point in the next few weeks they find something which can sort it out. But we'll wait and see on that one.
Just bouncing back a little bit to Forest. What is it about Forest that everybody doesn't seem to mind them, do they? Is it because of their history? Is it because of the European Cups? Is it? I was rooting for them. It was a difficult one for me because obviously me and Jimmy used to live in Huddersfield, used to watch Huddersfield a little bit, but what is it about Forest that everyone finds sort of appealing? Is it the history?
I think it's a combination of different things, really. Obviously, you've got the history there in terms of obviously the European success in years gone by, but I think partly it's that kind of football romance that we just kind of touched on briefly in terms of how long they've been out of top flight, but also that a fairly solid fan base who've stuck by them. Just a real solid English football team, really. There was a thing that I saw on Twitter the other day as well, obviously how close their ground is to Notts County, and now you've got a Premiership side and a non-league side literally within a stone's throw. I think it's within a couple of 100 yards. So that's obviously a bizarre one for the city as well. Obviously, Notts County have always really been in the shadow of Forest. So I would have said for a few of the county fans that would have been a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, I can't really put my finger on what it is, but a bit of a soft spot for Notts Forest. No idea why, to answer your question, really, Greg.
Right, Greg, you've got a little thing you want to end the podcast with. We have gone on for quite a while, but we appreciate it. Thank you, dear listener, for carrying on listening to us. Waffle on about whatever. So we're going to round off with Greg's Fives question, I think it's called, that you've just said. We don't know what it is yet, apart from Greg. So go on, mate, please explain.
Basically, during lockdown, a few of my mates from back home, we were doing basically this on Zoom, talking about football and things like that. And one of the lads, Jack Blundell, came up with the idea of, it's called Fives, and it's basically, I've got a question, like, who are the top 5 England goal scorers of all time, for instance, and number 1, you get 1 point, number 2, like the second, you get 2 points, 3, 4 and 5, those are the points, basically. So the more obscure the correct answer, the more points that you get. Question 1, top 5 goalkeepers for the clean sheets in the history of the Premier League. I'll go to Deck first.
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself then. Mark Schwarzer.
Right, okay. We'll go to Jimmy next.
Shay Given.
We'll go for Matt next.
John Achterberg.
So the only correct answer is Deck, so Deck wins.
We didn't see that coming.
Number 1, Peter Cech, that would have been 1 point. Number 2 is David James, that would have been 2 points.
Fuming, absolutely fuming.
Number 3, Mark Schwarzer, Deck, 3 points. Number 4, David Seaman. Number 5, Nigel Martin. I've got one more question and then we can end it if you want, because I'm not too sure if anybody's listening past this. Right, so top 5 teams in the history of the Premier League that have conceded the most goals. We'll go to Matt first.
Everton have to be in this.
Right, okay, so that's Matt's answer. Jimmy, we'll go for Jimmy next.
I'll have to go for Aston Villa.
Rightio, Deck, have you got a team?
Leeds.
Oof. So 2 of you have a correct answer. One of them is Jimmy, and the other one is Matt. Okay, so I'll give you the answers. So number 1 is Everton with 1,481 goals. Number 2 is Spurs with 1,438 goals. Number 3 is West Ham, 1,429. 4 is Newcastle, which is 1,417. And Aston Villa is 1,353. So the most obscure answer is Aston Villa, which is Jimmy. Matt got 1 point.
Softies.
So I think out of those 2 questions, I think Jimmy actually wins there, doesn't he? With 5 points, and Declan has 3 points, and Matt has 1.
In the nicest way, what a fucking shock.
I don't know. I thought it was something different anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us this season. If you've made it this far, you actually deserve an award from the Queen, because, oh my gosh, we've gone far too long. Again, I reiterate my point earlier, whether your team's good, bad or indifferent, hope you enjoyed the season. Hope you're just glad we've got football back in front of supporters. Behave yourselves in the stadiums though, please. We don't want any more empty stadium sort of shenanigans going on. We will see you, possibly under a new name, same old people, maybe a slightly shorter quiz, for the season preview 2022-23 in the next few weeks. Bye for now, everyone. Keep safe and take care.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Cheers, everyone.
See you soon. Bye now.
Sports Social Podcast Network.